In every home, there's a mirror you stop trusting. Maybe it's the way it warps at night, or how your reflection seems a little too eager to look back. Tonight's story is about a boy who noticed something strange. His reflection started wearing clown makeup before he did. When he wiped his face, the smile stayed. Welcome to the mirror clown, a slow descent into reflection, imitation, and the thing that waits behind the glass. If you love dark, grounded horror told in whispers, make sure you subscribe and turn on the light, because by the end of this one, you'll want it on. The bathroom light hummed when he switched it on. A tired yellow sort of light, the kind that made every corner look like it was still hiding something. Eli rubbed his eyes and stared into the mirror above the sink. It was old, like most things in the house his mum had just rented. The frame was painted white, though the paint had cracked into tiny curling scales, and there, running down from the top right corner, was a hairline fracture, thin as spider silk. He hadn't noticed it that morning. The crack caught the light whenever he moved. He leaned closer. His breath fogged the glass, and for a moment his reflection disappeared entirely. He wiped at the steam, and when it cleared, he could have sworn his reflection's hand moved a second too late. He froze, then laughed quietly under his breath. Just tired. It had been a long day, unpacking boxes, finding the right plugs for the lamps, helping his mum with the heavy stuff. She'd been in good spirits, though. Fresh start, she'd said. Just you and me this time. The house had a strange quietness to it, the kind that didn't feel empty, just listening. Eli reached for his toothbrush. The reflection reached too, but that brief lag returned, a flicker of delay. He blinked, shook his head, and kept brushing. The crack looked like a vein running down the glass. When he finished, he wiped his mouth with a towel. His reflection smiled faintly back at him. Except he hadn't smiled. He leaned closer again. His own face looked the same. Tired eyes, small mole under the chin, a shadow of freckles, but the corners of the reflection's lips were tilted upward. Subtle, like someone who knew something he didn't. He touched the glass. It was cool beneath his fingers. His reflection touched it too, just a second late. He whispered, "Weird." A floorboard creaked behind him. He turned fast, heart jumping, but it was nothing, just the old house settling, or maybe the wind from the cracked kitchen window down the hall. Still, when he turned back, the mirror was blank again, steam spreading across it like frost. He stepped back, left the light on, and went to bed. His mum worked nights at the care home. She'd come home just before sunrise, shoes squeaking softly across the tiles, trying not to wake him. But tonight he woke anyway. The sound that stirred him wasn't her footsteps. It was a drip, slow, measured. He followed it to the bathroom. The door was half open, the yellow light still on. Water beaded at the edge of the sink, dripping from the tap he thought he'd turned off. He reached to close it tight. His eyes flicked up instinctively to check the mirror. His reflection stared back. This time it wasn't smiling. It was just still, frozen in the act of touching the tap. He waited for it to move, to match him, but for a breath it didn't. Then it did, too fast, like catching up. He let out a quiet, nervous laugh. His skin prickled as if the air itself were colder. As he turned to go, he caught something at the edge of sight. A faint white smear under the reflection's left eye, like a bit of chalk dust or paint. He rubbed his own cheek, checking for a mark. Clean. When he looked again, the white spot remained, in the mirror only. He leaned close enough to see the subtle line of it, how it caught the yellow light and refused to fade. It wasn't bright enough to be toothpaste, and it didn't look like glare. It looked like makeup. He blinked hard, rubbed the mirror. The smudge didn't wipe away. When he stepped back, it was gone. He stood there for a long time, heart pacing, waiting for it to come back. The crack in the glass stretched through his reflection's eye now, thin as a knife cut. He shut the light off. In the morning, it was easier to forget. Daylight made everything seem smaller, even his thoughts. The mirror looked normal, though the crack had spread just slightly overnight. He noticed it while brushing his teeth. He'd raise his hand and the reflection followed, perfectly timed this time. He felt silly for thinking anything of it. He even told himself maybe the smudge had been toothpaste, maybe his tired brain was playing tricks. He went to school. Nobody asked about the move except Max, who sat behind him in history and leaned forward during roll call. "Your new place haunted yet?" Eli smiled. Not yet. That night, when he came home, his mum was already gone for her shift. The house was quiet again, too quiet. He heated soup from a can, ate standing by the counter, then decided to shower. When he came out, the mirror was fogged thick. He wiped it with his hand. His reflection smiled again. It wasn't broad, just that same tiny curve at the corners, the faintest tilt. He stepped back, blinking. The steam clung to his hair, the towel loose around his neck. The reflection's lips parted, just barely, enough to show the tips of his teeth. He hadn't moved his own mouth. The lights flickered once, a hum from the bulb overhead. He stayed very still. "Stop," he whispered, voice shaking. The reflection didn't. Instead, that same white smudge bloomed faintly beneath its left eye again. Only now he saw the shape better. It wasn't random. It curved upward like a painter's deliberate sweep, a start of something circular, a start of something like clown makeup. He reached up slowly, touched his cheek, then his eye. His fingers came away clean. The reflections didn't. For one long second, they just stared at each other, boy and copy, both holding perfectly still, until Eli realized he was trembling. He stepped back, tore the towel from the rack, and threw it over the mirror. The glass clinked faintly under the fabric. The light buzzed above, softer now. He stood in the doorway for what felt like an hour, listening for something, anything. Then it came. Tap, 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 slow, careful, from behind the towel. He told himself it was just the pipes, just the metal cooling. But each tap matched the rhythm of his own heartbeat. He left the bathroom light on again that night. From his bed he could see the faint yellow strip of light under the door. He thought of his reflection smiling when he wasn't, thought of the small white arc of paint that didn't belong. Sleep came late, slow and heavy. In his last waking moment, he imagined the mirror beneath its towel, dark, patient, still listening. Eli avoided the bathroom for most of the next day. He brushed his teeth in the kitchen sink, ignoring how wrong it felt to look anywhere but that mirror. The towel stayed draped over it like a shroud. By afternoon, he convinced himself the tapping had been pipes or wind. Houses made sounds. Old ones especially. His mum laughed when he mentioned it casually, like it was a joke. "You know how these places are," she said, opening a cabinet that squealed on its hinges. "They settle. Everything clicks, knocks, and groans." "Yeah," he said, though his voice didn't sound like his own. That night, he waited until she left for work before daring to go back in. The mirror still sat hidden beneath the towel, a sagging shadow above the sink. He took a breath, grabbed the towel, and pulled it away. The crack was wider now, thin splinters branching from the centre like veins. His own reflection looked pale, exhausted. The glass seemed to hum faintly in the silence. He raised one hand slowly. The reflection copied him, almost. There was a lag again, less than a second, but noticeable. He tried again, raised both hands, waited. The reflection followed. Then, after he lowered them, it hesitated, hands still up. Eli frowned, lifted one arm quickly. The reflection did the same, but not until he'd already dropped it. A beat too late. He stared. He did it again, faster this time. His reflection stuttered, then overshot. The grin returned, wider than it should have been. Eli stepped back. His heel brushed the door. "Stop it," he whispered, as if the words might mean something to it. The reflection didn't stop. It blinked out of rhythm now, slow, deliberate, like someone thinking. The faint white smear was there again beneath the left eye, larger now, pale and powdery. It almost looked like chalk dust. And beneath the reflection's lip, a thin streak of red, like he'd bitten it, or like someone had painted a smile and let it dry halfway. He touched his own mouth. Clean. He ran his fingers beneath his eyes. Nothing. The mirror version of him tilted its head, still smiling. The motion wasn't his. His stomach turned. He grabbed his phone, flipped to camera mode, and held it up. The selfie looked normal, his expression neutral. No smile, no makeup. Then he switched to the live view, pointed it at the mirror. The reflection grinned through the screen. Eli's hand trembled so badly he nearly dropped the phone. He pressed record. The app glitched once, froze on a single frame, his smiling reflection, and then resumed. He stopped recording, heart hammering, played it back. The video showed nothing unusual. No smile, no lag. He stared at the screen, replayed it twice, both times normal. The delay only existed when he was looking live. He turned back to the mirror. His reflection was neutral again, expression wiped clean. but the red line at the corner of the mouth remained. 2 nights later, he brought Max over after school. He hadn't meant to. It just sort of happened. Max had asked to see the place, and Eli didn't want to sound weird saying no. They dumped their backpacks in the hallway, and Max went exploring like always, opening doors, peering into closets. "Bathroom's ancient," Eli said, pretending not to care. "Mirror's cracked." "Cool," Max said, pushing the door open before Eli could stop him. The towel had slipped halfway down during the day. The glass was half covered, half exposed. Max leaned in, running a finger along the edge of the frame. "This place looks like one of those houses from your mum's ghost podcasts." Eli forced a laugh. "Yeah." Max leaned closer to the mirror, squinting. "You got toothpaste on it or something?" "What?" "Right there, under your eye." Eli froze. He rubbed his cheek automatically. Nothing. Max frowned. "Huh, never mind, must be glare." He backed up, glancing one more time before leaving the room. "Weird lighting in here, man. Looks like you're smiling." Eli didn't reply. He waited until Max was gone before looking at the mirror again. His reflection was smiling again. He didn't stay to watch. He shut the door and walked away. That night, the tapping returned. He woke up just after 2. The sound came steady, 3 beats apart. Tap, tap, tap. He held his breath, listening. It came from the bathroom again. He swung his legs out of bed, feet hitting the cold floor. The air felt thick, like the house was holding its breath too. He crept to the door and pressed his ear against it. Another tap, soft fingernail light directly behind the wood. He eased the door open. The bathroom light flickered. The towel had fallen completely now. The mirror waited, exposed. He stared at his reflection. It wasn't smiling anymore. It was grinning. The red line curved higher across its face, the pale makeup brighter now. He could see details he'd missed before, the texture of it, like powder and grease, faint smudges around the mouth. "Why?" he whispered. The reflection tilted its head, mirroring the whisper with silent lips. He took a step closer. The glass fogged slightly, though the air wasn't warm. He stared at the point where the crack split into tiny branches near the reflection's temple. Inside, something shimmered, like there was space behind it. A shadow moved. He jumped back. His shoulder hit the door frame. The tapping came again, louder now, 3 short knocks in a row, then silence. He tore the towel from the floor and threw it over the mirror. It muffled the sound, but didn't stop it. The tapping continued, dull against the fabric. He grabbed duct tape from a drawer and taped the towel in place, layer after layer, until not a sliver of glass showed. When he finished, he was shaking. He stood there in the humming light, waiting, listening. For the first time in days, the tapping stopped. He exhaled, shoulders dropping. The silence felt heavy but safe. He turned to leave, and then 3 taps, from inside the wall this time, behind the mirror. He stumbled backward, hit the sink, and nearly fell. The air felt wrong, like static crawling beneath his skin. He pressed his palms to his ears. "Stop." The house went quiet. He backed out slowly, shut the bathroom door, and pressed his hand to the knob. It was warm. He didn't sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he imagined the towel shifting, something pressing against it, breathing through the weave of the fabric. He lay still until the grey light of dawn leaked through his curtains. When he finally rose, he didn't go near the bathroom. He got dressed without brushing his teeth, without washing his face. By the time his mum came home, he'd packed his bag for school early. "You're up quick," she said, setting her purse on the counter. "Couldn't sleep." "Still getting used to the place, huh?" "Yeah." She smiled faintly. "You'll like it. Give it a week." He nodded but didn't answer. Behind her, the bathroom door was cracked open. The edge of the towel was visible, dark against the frame. As she walked down the hall toward her room, the towel shifted slightly, just enough for a strip of glass to glint through. For a heartbeat, he saw his reflection again, his face perfectly still, before the towel fell back into place. The reflection was still smiling. Eli made a list on a scrap of notebook paper. He wrote it in the middle of the night, flashlight balanced between his knees. Rules. 1. Don't look after midnight. 2. Keep the towel on. 3. Never meet its eyes. He folded the paper twice and slid it under his pillow. It made him feel better, like he could control it. The next morning, he avoided the bathroom entirely. He rinsed his toothbrush at the kitchen sink again and brushed with the light off. His mum had already left for her shift, and the house creaked and popped like a living thing. He told himself it was fine. Mirrors warped, light warped. Old glass sometimes did weird things. He even Googled it at school. Mirror lag illusion. Nothing. Old mirrors moving wrong. Nothing. Reflection delay psychological cause. Nothing that fit. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that the reflection was learning. That evening, he dared to lift the towel halfway, just enough to peek. His reflection stared back. Ordinary. Tired eyes, pale skin, same shirt. The crack in the glass caught the light. He took a deep breath, testing his courage, and raised his left hand. The reflection followed perfectly this time. Relief flooded him, until the reflection's hand stayed up when his dropped. Eli froze. He raised his right hand. The reflection switched, raising the opposite, like a teacher correcting him. Then, very slowly, the reflection's mouth curved upward into a grin. The red line was clearer now, a painted streak. He yanked the towel back over the mirror and taped it down again. He backed out of the room and closed the door. By the end of the week, he had memorized the sounds of the house. Pipes ticked near the kitchen. The refrigerator hissed every few minutes. The hallway floor groaned near the heater vent, but the tapping didn't fit any of those rhythms. It came in twos and threes, always from the bathroom, always behind the glass. That Friday night, when the sound started again, he sat on the edge of his bed and listened. Each tap seemed to pulse with his heartbeat. He waited 5 minutes, then 10, before standing. He told himself he wasn't going to look, just listen closer, maybe record it. He pressed his phone against the door and hit record. The tapping kept perfect rhythm. When he replayed it, though, there was no tapping at all, just silence. But near the end, under the static, came something else, a faint, wet breath, like someone exhaling behind the glass. He deleted the recording. The next day, the towel was gone. He found it folded neatly on the bathroom counter. The mirror stood uncovered, clean. The crack looked the same. Eli felt his throat tighten. "Mum?" he called out. She was in the kitchen, packing her lunch for the evening shift. "Yeah? Did you take the towel off?" She looked at him over her shoulder. "Towel? The one over the mirror." She frowned. "I didn't even notice it was covered." He walked back to the doorway, forcing himself to look. His reflection met him instantly. No delay, no lag, no smudge. Just him. The crack looked deeper now, though, almost wide enough to fit a fingernail into. He reached forward and ran a finger along the split edge. It caught slightly. When he looked up, there was a pale handprint on the other side of the glass. It wasn't his. The fingers were thinner, longer, pressed from the inside. Eli stumbled backward so fast he hit the towel rack. "Mum!" he shouted. She was already walking down the hall, a spoon still in her hand. "What?" he pointed, breath shaking. "Look!" She leaned past him. The mirror looked normal again. No handprint, no smudge. Just a hairline crack. "You okay?" she asked quietly. He nodded, though he wasn't. She looked like she wanted to say more, but didn't. "Maybe stay out of that bathroom for a bit. The mirror's old. It's probably just warping." Warping. He nodded again, said nothing. That night, he taped a sheet of paper over the mirror, then another and another until it was completely hidden under a patchwork of notebook pages. He sat cross-legged on the floor, staring at the covered glass. After half an hour, the paper began to ripple slightly, as if a breeze passed behind it. There was no breeze. He leaned closer. The faintest outline of a face pressed through the paper, nose, mouth, eyes, distorted but recognizable. The lips curved into a smile. Eli tore the papers down. Beneath them, the reflection smiled back, wide now, bright. The red grin stretched too far, and around the eyes pale powder shimmered faintly, catching the light. He turned off the light. The grin stayed. He backed away into the dark hall, heart hammering. He didn't go to school the next day. He told his mum he felt sick. When she left for work that evening, he locked the bathroom door from the outside. He could still hear it. The tapping started again, soft but steady. He tried drowning it out with music, but between songs the sound returned. 2 quick knocks, then 1 slow. When he finally looked, a sliver of light glowed from under the door. The bathroom light was on. He hadn't turned it on. He crouched low, eye level with the gap. The light flickered, faint shadows moving across the tiles. One shadow lingered, shaped like a pair of bare feet facing the door. He stumbled backward, heart in his throat. The tapping stopped. He crept to his room, locked that door too, and sat on his bed, gripping his knees. The house was silent now. Then came the laughter. Soft, thin, not loud enough to be real, but not imagined either. It came from behind the bathroom door, high-pitched and faint, like someone trying to imitate a child's giggle. He covered his ears and whispered the rules. Don't look after midnight. Keep the towel on. Never meet its eyes. At dawn, the sound stopped. When he finally worked up the courage to check, the bathroom was dark again. The towel lay in a heap on the floor. The mirror gleamed faintly in the morning light. The crack was wider now, no longer hairline but branching, spreading like veins. He stepped closer. The glass fogged, though the air was cold, and then faint and reversed on the inside of the mirror he saw it again, the handprint. Smaller than his, too narrow, the palm perfectly flat against the other side. Beneath it, scratched faintly into the fog, were 2 words written backward. Let me. He ran. He didn't go back that day. He waited outside until his mum came home, pretending to be reading on the porch. She noticed the circles under his eyes, the way he flinched when the hallway light flickered. You need sleep, she said softly. It's this house, huh? He almost told her everything. The lag, the handprint, the words. But when he looked at her reflection in the hallway window, he saw his own face there instead, smiling faintly from behind her shoulder. He said nothing. That night, she worked another shift. The tapping began the moment the front door shut. By the next evening, Eli had stopped pretending. He didn't bother brushing his teeth, didn't wash, didn't sleep. He just sat in his room, staring at the sliver of yellow light leaking from under the bathroom door. The mirror waited in there. He could feel it. The tapping had become predictable now, 3 soft knocks at sunset, like a doorbell from the wrong side of the world. He'd stopped answering, but it didn't matter. The reflection had learned his rhythms. Every time he passed the door, the light flickered faintly as though it were aware of him. That Friday, the bulb in his lamp blew. The room fell into dim shadow. He stood, uncertain, and turned toward the hallway. The bathroom door was open. Only a crack, but enough to see the faint gleam of the mirror inside. Eli's stomach dropped. He remembered locking it. He crept closer, each step slower than the last. The mirror reflected only the doorway at first, then his shoulder, then his face. He froze. His reflection wasn't matching him. It stood a little to the side, head tilted, a fraction of a second ahead of every move. He raised his hand, testing. The reflection raised his first, anticipating. He dropped his arm. The reflection held his longer, then let it fall with a slow, deliberate grace, like a dancer finishing a rehearsal. It smiled. The grin was wider now, drawn in faint white grease and blood-red paint, as if carefully applied over nights of practice. Eli whispered, "Stop copying me." The reflection moved its lips, but no sound came. It tilted its head, almost sympathetically. He stepped closer. So did it, only faster. For the first time, he noticed something behind the reflection. Not his bathroom. A narrow corridor instead, grey and warped, its walls peeling and wet. A faint door stood at the end, shaped like his, but darker. His breath hitched. He turned his head slightly, looking over his shoulder to check. There was no corridor behind him, only the same cracked tiles and towel rack. But in the glass, it was there. The reflection's hand lifted, touching the inside of the mirror. The crack traced through its wrist like a seam. The glass pulsed faintly, as if breathing. Eli stepped back. His knees hit the sink cabinet. The reflection followed with perfect timing now, then smiled too wide, a dry laugh forming silently in its chest. He bolted from the room, slammed the door, and locked it again. His hands were shaking too much to hold the knob. That night he dreamed, not of the mirror, but of the hallway. Except it wasn't a dream. He never closed his eyes. He sat awake on the bed, staring at the locked bathroom door, and realized the house sounded wrong again, too quiet. Then came a new sound. The handle. It turned once, stopped, turned again, slower. Eli held his breath. The lock held. He stepped forward, heart pounding, listening to the faint scrape of metal. The door rattled once more, then went still. When he backed away, he caught sight of the hallway mirror by his mum's room, the small oval one that hung over the radiator. In it he saw movement. His own reflection standing in the bathroom doorway, smiling faintly, though he was standing 10 feet away. He turned toward the door. Still locked. He turned back. The reflection waved. He switched off the hallway light. The mirror went black. By morning, the reflection's movements had become unpredictable. He didn't need to look directly anymore to feel it. He'd catch it in window glass, phone screens, even the side of the kettle, smiling just for him. He began whispering to it without realizing. Little things. Stop it. Go away, please. The air in the house had changed too, damp like breath on cold glass. When he finally looked again, hours later, the reflection was waiting. This time it didn't mimic him at all, it just watched. The makeup was complete now, pale face, darkened eyes, crimson smile. He stared at it for what felt like an hour. "You're not me," he said. The reflection's mouth moved a beat later. Not yet. He heard it, soft, clear, from behind the glass. The voice sounded like his, but deeper, calmer. He stumbled backward, knocking the soap dish to the floor. It shattered, but the sound didn't reach the mirror. His reflection stepped closer, hands flat against the inside of the glass, palms white, fingers long. Behind it, the corridor brightened as if lit by some unseen sun. The walls were lined with fragments of broken glass, each showing something different. 100 faces, half-formed and watching. Eli turned and ran, slamming his bedroom door. Hours passed, maybe a whole night. He lost count. The sound of dripping water came from the hallway now. Not a leak, something heavier, slower, like wet footsteps. He pressed his pillow over his ears, but when the footsteps stopped, the whisper came instead. "Eli." It came from the bathroom, from the mirror. He didn't move. "Eli, let me out." He clenched his jaw. The voice was muffled as though coming through a wall, but clear enough to sound familiar. He didn't answer. "You're tired? I can take your turn." He threw his blanket aside and bolted for the door. He needed to leave the house. But as he reached the hallway, the bathroom door was open again. The light inside flickered like candlelight, though there was no candle. The reflection stood there, waiting. Only now, it wasn't waiting for him. It was ready. He could tell from the way it smiled, head tilted like a performer waiting for a cue. He took one step back. It raised a hand before he could. He froze. Stop. The reflection lowered its hand, copying him, then began nodding over and over as if agreeing to something unspoken. The tapping started again, this time from behind him. He turned slowly. Every framed picture, every darkened screen along the hallway showed his reflection, each one smiling, nodding in sync. The bathroom light flickered once more. He could feel it, the pull of the glass. He ran for the front door. The knob wouldn't turn. He rattled it, shouted for his mum, but the sound seemed to fall flat, muffled by the walls themselves. He looked toward the bathroom one last time. The reflection stood in the corridor behind the mirror now, 1 foot forward, ready to step through. The smile was patient. Eli lifted the wrench from the shoe rack, his mum's old tool. Heavy, cold. He walked toward the mirror. The reflection mirrored him perfectly, wrench in hand, head tilted. Then it shook its head no, slowly, almost tenderly. "Why not?" he whispered. It tilted again, lips parting just enough to speak. "You'll make it easier." The wrench trembled in his hands. He felt the hum through the air like static or a low breath pressed between the two sides of the glass. He took one last look at himself. His own pale eyes, trembling jaw, the faint outline of the crack running through both their faces. The reflection smiled wider and nodded. The mirror's hum grew louder that night, like a faint engine turning behind the wall. Eli didn't sleep. Every so often he thought he heard his own voice whisper from the bathroom, counting softly, like rehearsing lines for a part. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. The sound continued until dawn. By morning, Eli could barely stand. He hadn't slept in 2 days. His eyes ached, his throat was dry, and every corner of the house felt alive with faint vibration, like a heartbeat he couldn't locate. The mirror's hum hadn't stopped since the night before. It pulsed through the walls, the floor, the air. He stood outside the bathroom, wrench in hand, staring at the closed door. He couldn't run. He'd tried that once already, found the front door swollen shut, the windows refusing to open. It was like the house wanted him here. His reflection wanted him here. He took a slow breath and turned the knob. The bathroom light was on again. Inside, the mirror waited, bright and bare. The crack now spidered fully across the glass, branching from corner to corner. The reflection smiled faintly behind it, makeup complete, a white powdered face and the thin, dry curve of a red grin. Behind the reflection stretched the corridor again, narrow, crooked, endless. He could see movement down there now, shapes shifting in the dark, other faces turning toward him from the far end. He felt them watching. Not real, he whispered. The reflection's lips moved, perfectly in sync this time. Real enough. Eli stepped forward, his grip tightening on the wrench. The reflection copied him, mirroring each step, but its eyes were fixed on something else. His hands. It knew what he planned. Stop, he said. The reflection tilted its head, then reached out a hand toward the glass, palm flat. Eli's chest tightened. The space between them was only inches now. He could see his breath fogging the mirror. The reflection's breath fogged from the other side, 2 white clouds merging across the crack. He wanted to break it, to end it, but something about the expression on the reflection's face made him hesitate. It looked human, tired, sad. Then it smiled again, slowly, deliberately, and traced something on the glass with its finger. Come in. Eli staggered back. No. The reflection's grin widened, paint stretching, red cracking into thin flakes. The lights flickered. Something thudded from behind the mirror, heavy and wet, as if a hand had struck the glass from the other side. The crack deepened. He swung the wrench. The blow landed hard, spiderwebbing the glass further. A hiss escaped from the mirror, not air, but sound. A voice in reverse, sharp and layered. He hit it again. The crack split through his reflection's eyes. When the shards shifted, he saw movement, something pushing forward from inside, pressing against the fractures. The corridor behind the reflection filled with light. Stay there, he shouted. The reflection shook its head. Eli struck again. The mirror shattered into dozens of pieces. Each shard clung to the frame, trembling. For a second there was silence. Then warmth. Not from the air, but from the glass. He looked down. Hands, small, pale, and perfectly human, had reached through the cracks and wrapped around his wrists. He tried to pull away, but they were stronger. The shards didn't cut him. They softened under the skin, stretching like wet paper. He screamed, wrench dropping to the floor. The reflection stepped forward, slowly, gracefully, through the broken surface. For one heartbeat, they were face to face. It wasn't wearing makeup anymore. It was wearing his face. He caught one last glimpse of himself in the reflection's eyes, small, terrified, fading. Then the hands pulled. The world flipped, cold, then heat, then dark. He landed hard on rough stone. When he opened his eyes, the air was dim and humid. He stood in a corridor, the same narrow one he'd always seen behind the mirror. He turned back toward where he'd come from. Through the fractured surface, he saw his bathroom, saw his reflection. No, the other him, standing there, calm, breathing, looking around as if testing his new body. Mum, the other said softly, the voice perfectly his. Eli pounded on the glass. No, don't. The reflection turned toward him, head cocked. For the first time, Eli saw what was truly behind that grin. The makeup had never been decoration. It was covering the seams, the cracks in a face that had been used too many times before. The reflection smiled wider, teeth too white now. Then it raised a hand, a mirror of farewell, and walked out of view. Eli pounded harder. The mirror didn't move. The sound didn't cross. When he looked around, he saw the walls of the corridor stretching endlessly, lined with mirrors on both sides. Each one showed someone else. Trapped faces, mouths moving soundlessly, some crying, some screaming, some simply waiting. Behind him, footsteps echoed faintly. He turned. Down the corridor, another figure stood. Pale face, red smile, watching. He backed away, pressing his hands to the nearest mirror. The glass felt warm, soft like skin. His reflection inside mimicked his panic, pressing back against him. From somewhere far above, a faint voice called, his mum's voice. "Eli, honey?" he shouted. "I'm here. I'm here." But the words died in the thick, muffled air. The reflection, his replacement, answered instead. "In here, Mum." She appeared in the bathroom doorway, hair damp from the rain, eyes tired. She smiled with relief. "You scared me. What happened to the mirror?" Eli banged against the glass until his fists hurt. "Don't! That's not me!" The boy standing in his place smiled softly. His face was clean. No paint, no cracks. "Nothing," the boy said. "Just broke it by accident," she sighed. "We'll get a new one." The boy nodded. Through the broken shards, Eli saw her reach out, brush glass from the sink and kiss the top of the imposter's head. Then she turned off the light. Darkness swallowed the bathroom. In the corridor, the mirrors glowed faintly, one by one, like distant windows. Eli pressed his forehead to the glass, breath fogging the surface. The warmth from the other side faded slowly. He whispered, Please. No answer. Only the faint echo of laughter drifting down the corridor, high and breathy, like someone practicing joy. It was the same sound he'd heard tapping through the towel that first night. He turned. The figure at the end of the hall was closer now. It had the same painted smile, same powdered skin, and it was clapping, softly, politely, each sound bouncing off the stone walls in slow, deliberate rhythm. He took a step back, pressing harder against the glass. His reflection inside the mirror mimicked him perfectly again, as though nothing had happened. Please, Eli whispered one last time. The figure stopped clapping. Then, slowly, it smiled wide enough to split its cheeks. Rehearsal's over, it said. The lights in the corridor went out. When his mum woke the next morning, the house was quiet. The mirror in the bathroom was gone, replaced by an empty frame. In its place, a new one appeared in the hallway overnight. Oval, spotless, with a faint red smear across the bottom edge. Inside it, a boy's reflection smiled back. His face was perfect, his eyes calm. Only if you looked closely, if you waited long enough, you could see another shape behind him, blurred by glass, smiling the same way. If you made it this far, you've already looked too long. The mirror's quiet now, but reflections have a way of remembering faces. If you enjoyed The Mirror Clown, don't forget to subscribe for more stories that wait in the dark. Leave a comment before you turn off the lights.